my dear friends. I'm Ashraf. Welcome to my little kitchen. Today, we're going to make a very traditional dish together. Usually, this dish is made by men. However, I have made this dish many times, and my friends, family, and relatives all like it very much. I wanted to share it with you. And I know that you guess what it could be, because the traditional food of Iran is Kalleh Pacheh. The Honorable Kale Pacheh is sitting right here in front of me. I must say that this is the smallest batch I've ever made. I have a personal record of hosting Kale Pacheh parties with 36 to 37 heads, about 70 trotters, 60 tongues. I host full-on Kale Pacheh parties. This time, however, I'm making a smaller amount since I wanted to have everything recorded on camera so that you can see the steps. It is not a difficult dish at all. It is a dish that requires a willingness to touch it when making it. Many people, when they see the head, they can't touch it. Thankfully, however, I don't have that problem. The method I'm using is one that has been passed down in my family for the past 70 to 80 years. I learned how to cook Kale Pacheh from my mother, and I always have fond memories of it, because this was the only dish that my mom and dad made together, and we enjoyed watching them sit together, cleaning and preparing the Kale Pacheh. Then they would prepare it and let it cook. It brings back many good memories for me. As you can see, here they split the heads in half. They cut off the nose, that is, the front part of the snout. It's almost fully clean. They also remove the brain. I have purchased the brains separately, and I also cook them separately. I cook the heads together. I've also purchased the tongues separately, and will cook them separately as well. As for the trotters, they too most definitely are to be cooked separately, because in my opinion, trotters take much longer to cook. If they're undercooked, they're not edible, and can be quite disappointing. For the ingredients, as you can see, I use a lot of onions. I also use garlic, cinnamon sticks, bay leaves, salt, and turmeric. The only spices are salt and turmeric. At the end, I add a very small amount of cinnamon powder, because I don't want it to be too much. There might be some people who do not like it. Hence, I want there to be just a hint of cinnamon aroma. If someone likes it, they can add more at the table. Let's start making it together. As you can see, I have 6 heads cut into 12 pieces. I wash them thoroughly with cold water. Then I put them in a pot and fill it with water until they're fully covered and let it boil. After that, I'll show you what to do next. I wash the tongue clean, add the onions, garlic, and a cinnamon stick, and let them cook. We won't bother with that for now. The brain is the last part. That is, it's the last thing I add to the Kale Pacheh, because it cooks very quickly. As for the trotters, the beautiful trotters require the most effort. It's a whole different ball game. I'll record the entire process of making them for you to see the steps and do the same. As you know, they also take the most time to cook. We moved outside, because when Kale Pacheh first starts boiling, it has a very unpleasant smell. That's why we brought it outside. I put it in the pot and I filled it to the top with water, and we'll watch it together. I haven't added onions or garlic yet. Nothing yet. Just the head and water. We're doing this until it reaches the point we want. Then I'll show you what to do next. Well, you see, my dear friends, once it reaches this stage, we need to pick it up. Do you see this foam? The color of the water has completely changed and has turned green. I'll pick this up and wash it again with cold water. I'll let it reach the stage once more, and then I'll show you what I do next. I wash these thoroughly with my hands, as if I'm scrubbing their faces with a loofah to make sure no green foam is left anywhere, especially the areas under the tongue and around the nose. I make sure all of these areas are clean. At this stage, as you can see, it's much easier to find and remove those tiny hairs that were still stuck to the face and were hard to remove earlier. Now it's much easier to find and clean them. I'll repeat this process one more time to make sure that no more murky water comes out of it. Well, my dear friends, I've washed it again and poured cold water over it once more. It's almost fully covered. I adjust them slightly to make sure that the meat part is submerged in the water. We'll let it reach the same stage again. I'll then wash it one more time, just to make sure there's no more green water or unpleasant foam coming out of it. When it reached the boiling point, I washed it again for the second time. I put it back in cold water. Now I want to show you something else. I have a larger pot, but it's much larger. I have 2 of these pots. I usually use these 2 for Kalleh Pacheh parties. But this time, I prefer to make it in this pot since the batch is small. My mom sent this pot to me from Iran many years ago by mail. I use it and love it, because I've always made dishes with it that have created good memories for me. Looks like the entire onion tribe is gathered here now. Don't worry, it won't be too much onion, because all of it will be strained out, and the onions will be discarded. We're just using more onions to make sure there's no bad smell left in the Kaleh Pacheh. I'll add onions, garlic, and of course bay leaves and a cinnamon stick. We'll cut the onions into quarters or maybe 6 or 8 pieces. We do not finely chop them. We just cut them into chunks and throw them into the Kaleh Pacheh pot. As I mentioned, I cook the rest separately, trotters separately, tongue separately, and the brain, which is the very last step. I'll show you that too, because I believe that each of these needs its own cooking time. If they're all mixed together, one item might become overcooked, while another might be left undercooked. This is how I make it, and so far, everyone has liked it. So they go into the pot. So I've cut 3 large onions into big chunks and added them to the pot. Now, I'll add the whole garlic cloves into the pot as well. Then I'll throw in a few bay leaves. Let's add them. You have to be a bit generous here. I'm not adding too much cinnamon. As I said, I'm just adding a small piece because I'm cooking everything separately. I'm just adding 1 small piece to give it that hint of cinnamon essence. But the goal isn't to add a lot of cinnamon at this point. Then, as I mentioned, I add a small teaspoon of salt. And 2 teaspoons of turmeric. And this goes to simmer on its own. These trotters here are much cleaner than the ones we used to get in Iran. Almost everyone who sees them says, these are super clean, and there's no issue. Nevertheless, I always cut the trotters open, because there's a part that has a couple of glands. Let me show you up close. This is the hairy part of the trotter. I prefer to completely open this up, so that no hair remains, and it becomes completely clean when I singe it. Unfortunately, I've seen some places that don't do this, and you either don't see this gland and eat it by mistake, or these hairs become quite unpleasant, and can be really off-putting. So I cut it like this. This is the part one was talking about that's really bad. I always try to remove this part. It's not easy to remove, but I think it's necessary. You see, this part needs to be removed. And here, as you can see, it's hairy. I want these areas to be scorched well when I singe it, so that nothing remains there. You see, it's clean now, there's nothing left. To make sure you fully understand, I'll show you another one. Be careful with your hands because this is no joke. You see, this is the gland part, and usually when you cut it, one side has more, the other side less, or it all ends up on one side. I always remove this. Of course, some people are okay with it, saying, come on, there's no need to tire ourselves out like this. But I do remove these. I think it's better to take them out. As I said, it's not easy to remove, but I got all of it out. This is the last one. In my opinion, this is the hardest part of preparing Kalleh Pacheh, because removing these glands from the middle of the throttle is a bit difficult. I removed them, cleaned the throttles, and now I'm going to singe them. You don't need to keep it over the fire for too long, because it will burn and turn black, and it won't look good in the pot or on the plate. You see, I open this up, and now all these areas will get a good singe. There won't be any hair left between the openings of the trotters. We're not cooking it here. We're just going to give it a little heat, as they say, so no hair remains. And as you can see, I've charred it just to the extent I wanted. Now, I'm going to clean and wash these again and get them ready for cooking. I've charred the trotters, washed them, and put them in the pot. I've covered them completely with cold water, just a little above them, because the time these need to cook is about 8 hours or more. When it starts boiling, you need to lower the heat. Let it simmer slowly until the bones come out on their own. That's how the trotters become edible. And if someone likes them, they'll really enjoy eating them. Just like the heads, I've chopped these onions too, added 1 cinnamon stick, a few cloves of garlic, and a few bay leaves. I add 1 teaspoon of turmeric to this because, in the end, I want to combine the broth. And I don't want too much turmeric. I also add 1 teaspoon of salt. This one goes to simmer and cook on its own. But you need to be really patient with this one. Well, I just wanted to emphasize again, dear ones, my spoon is a teaspoon. So the amount I'm talking about is based on a teaspoon. Please don't overuse it. I'm not adding the cinnamon powder now because it will make your Kalleh Pacheh turn black. If you let it boil with the cinnamon powder for too long, it will turn black, look unappealing, and won't taste the way you want. So, hold off on adding the cinnamon powder for now. I'm also cooking the tongue separately. I'll let it come to a boil, change the water, wash it clean again, and cook it with the same ingredients that I added to the other pots. And I'll cook this one separately as well. The tongue doesn't need 8 hours of cooking. Maybe around 4 hours is enough. We'll see, maybe 4 or 5 hours will be enough. The beauty, quality, and deliciousness of Kalleh Pacheh require that you cook it on low heat for a long time. If you rush it or use a pressure cooker, it won't turn out the way it should. I washed it, and it's covered with cold water. I'll let it come to the boil I want. It won't bubble up, just reach the boiling point. I'll quickly change the water and wash it clean with cold water. Then I'll mix in the ingredients and set this aside to cook. Well, my dear ones, as you can see, do you see the color? Do you see this foam? These are the things that I let it simmer until it starts to boil. I let it warm up. I don't let it bubble, just let it reach the boiling point. You see, it's starting to bubble and boil. I take it out, wash it again with cold water, and set it aside. You'll see that, like the others, I'll add the ingredients and let it cook. I changed the water and washed it again. It's filled with cold water and ready. I add the onions and throw in the garlic. Just like the others, I add these and let it start cooking. As I mentioned, I cook these separately, and my friends have always appreciated and liked this method. Because everything is cooked according to its own timing. So nothing is too mushy, or undercooked, or too smashed and disappears into the dish. Or something isn't undercooked and too tough to chew. I throw in a cinnamon stick, and these few cloves of garlic. Once again, I'm adding a little turmeric and salt now. But in the end, all the broths will be combined. That's why when I combine them, first, I'll show you, and second, I'll taste it to see what's missing so we can add it. For right now, I'm not adding the final full amount of what would be appropriate for serving. That's it for now. Well, loves, take a look, these tongues are cooking. It's been cooking for about 2 hours now. After it's done, I'll remove the skin. I've seen that many people bring the tongue to the table with the skin on. Well, this makes it really hard to eat. You want it to be ready and really melt in your mouth like a delicacy. I'll remove their skin, and we'll show you how I do it. Here's the heads party. The heads are cooking. They've been cooking for 2 hours. And we still need a few more hours. Remember, I boiled these outside to get rid of the bad smell. I boiled them twice. I discarded the water, and once the bad smell was gone, I brought them inside. These are the sweet legs that I brought in from the outside. They are also having a blast in their party. I put all of them to cook about 2 hours ago. We still need a lot of time. I've cooked the tongue thoroughly. And as I said, I'm taking it out now, so I can peel off the skin and put it in the serving dish. I'm opening one up for you to see. It's extremely and thoroughly cooked all the way. So much so that the skin comes off easily just like that. Let me tell you something interesting. My own kids who were born here don't like Kale Pacheh, but whenever I start cooking it, after the first couple of boils, and once I bring it inside to simmer on the stove, the smell of Kale Pacheh gives them a sense of nostalgia. They say, "Oh mommy, are you making Kale Pacheh? We don't like the dish itself, but we really love the smell." It always reminds us of guests coming over, because whenever you make Kale Pacheh, we have guests over. They love it. It creates a very pleasant atmosphere for them. For this Kale Pacheh gathering, I invited some dear ones from both my family and my husband's family. All of them love Kale Pacheh, I invited them to come over for breakfast tomorrow, so we can enjoy it together. And I'll definitely share a video with you. I'm okay with every part of Kaleh Pacheh, but I love the tongue the most. My favorite part is the sheep's tongue. I really love it. When you watch the video later, let me know which part of Kaleh Pacheh you like the most. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Write to me and let me know. Now, you might be wondering how I'm going to reheat this tomorrow morning. Either I'll put it in the oven tonight at 170 degrees Fahrenheit, so that it stays warm until morning. In the morning, whenever my dear guests arrive, I'll serve it hot, or I'll put it in the fridge, wake up a bit earlier in the morning, and reheat it in the oven. First, at a higher temperature to warm it up, and I'll definitely pour a little Kale Pacheh broth over the meat, because you can't leave the meat dry. It burns quickly. My dear ones, here are the heads. As you can see, they're well cooked, and everything comes apart easily. You see how easily it comes off? This is fully cooked. Everything comes apart just as easily as you see here. We remove the eye here, and this bone, which is no longer needed, we discard. I remove the black part of the eye and place the rest in the dish. The goal is to place them separately, so that when the meat is mixed together, no one has to look for the eyes, brain, and such. In other words, everyone will know what's where. Now these heads that were cut in half have tongues too. I'll put this tongue with the other tongues, remove the bones, and place the cheek meat in my dish. Clean the rest the same way, remove the meat, and arrange it in the dish. Here comes the next eye, and another head. I remove the black part of the eye, place the eyes here, and later, I'll place the brain next to them, because both the eyes and brain are much more delicate. I place these two together, so they don't get mixed up with the rest. It really depends on personal taste. Some people don't like the eyes. I don't like them myself. And these are the trotters, which I let cool down because I wanted to make sure I could touch them and remove the bones. As you can see, the big bones have already come out because they are well cooked. The small bones that come out, well, as I said, some of them are very tiny. It's not possible to remove them all, so those eating will have to take care of the tiny ones themselves. But I'll remove as many as I can. See this? I'm taking out all these bones, my dear ones. It's really easy. When it's well cooked, removing them is really easy. Then I'll remove this other part as well. It's just as easy to remove everything this way. As soon as you touch it, it comes out on its own. Look, this is now a boneless trotter. You can see it still has a few tiny bones here. I think there are about 4. And now it's complete. This one is fully done, and has no bones left at all. The Kalleh Pacheh is cooked, the bones have been removed, and it's been placed in the serving dishes. After I removed the bones, I strained the Kalleh Pacheh broth twice, or through a fine mesh strainer or cheesecloth, or whatever other names you know and use. I strained it and set it aside. Now let's prepare the brains as well, and place them in the serving dishes. When my dear guests arrive, I'll show you. This has come to a boil, and I'm dropping in the brains one by one. Now these aren't whole as they've been cut into halves, but I want the brains to maintain their shape as much as possible. This way, it looks nicer in the dish, and there are some dear ones among the family who only like the brain. I don't want it to be where they have to search for the brain in the Kalleh Pacheh, because when we cook them all together, they get very mushy. So, I'll let this simmer for about 15 minutes. Let it bubble nicely, and make sure it's fully cooked. For the brains, I think 15 to 20 minutes should be enough. Well, loves, look, our brain is cooked and ready to join the rest of its friends. My guests will arrive soon, and I'll share a video of the table with you. So my dear ones, we're getting close to the heavenly moment of the Kalleh Pacheh party. My guests have arrived. I just wanted you to take a look at my table. Of course, our kids don't like Kalleh Pacheh, so we also set out some non-Iranian breakfast for them. And we also put out a little Iranian breakfast that's not Kalleh Pacheh. Here's the tea I've set out. A bit of sholazard, though that's for after the Kalleh Pacheh, non-Iranian breakfast, and a somewhat Iranian breakfast. Oh, I absolutely have to show you this. I'm very proud of this garlic pickle. I think it's been over 19 years since I made it. And this is its last serving. Today, I want to share it with my loved ones here. Enjoy it together, and savor the moment. I wish you were here to smell it. As you saw, this is the cheek meat. The brain is in one dish, the trotters and tongue in another. And this is the broth, the Kaleh Pacheh broth. I must mention that the brain and eyes are together in one dish. Wish you were here. I hope you make this recipe too, enjoy it and like it. Please, if you have any comments, write them for me. I'd be happy to hear them. There is no such thing as perfect. I tried to make it flawless, but it isn't. If you have any better ideas, if you have any suggestions, please leave me a comment. I'd appreciate it if you haven't subscribed yet. Please do. Love you all. Until the next delicious dish, goodbye.
بله دارم کله پا کرده دارم
آقلا پاچه داری
بله دارم پاچه پا کرده دارم
زبون بره داری
بله دارم
چشم گوش و پروری
بله دارم
زبون بره داری
بله دارم
چشم گوش و پروری
بله دارم بله دارم بله دارم